All right, everyone. Today's going to be a little bit different just because short on time. So, no pre-music in the lobby or anything like that. Just jumping straight into the charts. So, let me drop this link for the people real quick in the Discords that were asking me to do it, and then we will carry on. Let's see. All right, drop link there. So like I said, this is going to be a pretty quick session because I got to jump on a meeting in 20 minutes. But I wanted to take a look at a few of these tickers that y'all specifically have been asking about and wanted to look at. So, AMD. There we go. Starting with AMD. Sorry, let me click this button because I'm getting notifications from the other Discord. Alright, so AMD. What do we got going on with AMD? They had earnings and it tanked hard off earnings, right? Which, like I'm always saying, the news basically ends up serving as a catalyst for the patterns that we have in play. So I know there's a lot of lines here. I apologize for that. That's because we're tracking multiple downtrends. I'm going to go ahead and delete these now just to clean it up a bit. And then I'll delete some of the other minor supports and resistance levels that we've been monitoring. But what you can see playing out here is this bear flag breakdown. And notice how it perfectly made that measured move to that support level at 107.50. So on AMD, we need to see here, is it going to hold the 107.50 level on the daily and weekly candles, or is it going to lose that support and make a move down towards 94? So still very much in the longer term downtrend here on AMD, which is a bit disappointing because I've been patiently waiting to enter longer term calls and shares, and I'm glad I've waited, but I'll be watching to see if we get a reversal at some point to enter that. I told Stevie I would look at Lockheed Martin for her. Stevie, we need to look at the contract you were asking about because I think it might have been the bid-ask spread was why it was showing that you potentially had gains, because it looks like Lockheed Martin hasn't actually bounced. So looking at Lockheed Martin, here's the levels I'm watching on it. Really, it needs to catch a bounce and it needs to move back up to fill the gap in that 496 range. So that's what I would be watching for on Lockheed. I haven't looked at most stuff in the pre-market yet, but let me look, see where we want to jump next. Google. So Google dropped hard off earnings as well. Nice thing about Google here is it's trying really hard to hold this range. You can see we didn't get the full measured move to the upside. We still had great gains. Those of you that kind of traded the calls with me ahead of earnings, I forget what they ended up doing, but it's like 130% plus. But that's a strong reason why I always recommend locking gains when you head into earnings. So if you're up a little bit, if you're up a lot, either way, minimally cover your cost basis for your full position going into earnings just to be safe, because you never know how earnings are going to play out. And even if this thing stayed within like a 2 to 3% range of where it closed, the contracts would have got IV crushed. So definitely watching Google here to see, can it hold that support range that it's established? And if so, it might be a good opportunity to actually add for a good bounce. But I'm treading carefully here and cautiously here because a lot of big tech's going to start getting hammered more and more in the coming weeks. The more tariff conversations happen. Delete these things for calls since we already logged gains on them. But Apple, similar situation, right? So it dove off earnings. It's trying to hold the support zone because this thing actually, if you look here, has got a strong demand zone in this area, so I'd like to see it hold that ideally. But what's concerning on a lot of these tickers is yesterday they caught a bounce and they retraced to fill a gap, and then they rejected. So if you look across a lot of the stocks and the indices, that's what we saw. QQQ was kind of one of the exceptions, but I think a lot of that pump. Wow, are we really at 5? Where are we at? Pre-market. Okay, I was like, whoa. A lot of the hype and movement you saw yesterday on QQQ was partially from the delay in the tariffs, but also hype off of pre-earnings movement on several tickers, which has now completely been negated. Thus, the drop happening overnight on QQQ and SPY. So be careful today. We're going to continue to have a lot of volatility. Can't talk. Sorry, need more coffee. Yes, coffee. All right. We're going to keep seeing a lot of volatility in the coming weeks, months, probably years, honestly, just because everything with the new administration, the markets as a whole. I personally don't see that as a bad thing. I kind of thrive in volatility, and you can make much more significant gains during those times of volatility with options and even with shares. So it's just all about entering the right things at the right time, but also don't be afraid to trade both directions, right? So let's see. Other tickers. Can you show how you mark levels? Yeah, there's a video I did recently. Let me find a ticker that I haven't really done. Now I can try to look at that real quick and show you. Let me look at this list over here of ones that we were watching for longer term. I think I already marked that one too. Yeah, I did. Might throw me a ticker I haven't looked at. Korean sound. All on the list. Oh no. Sorry, I switched over on the other PC. Let's see. How about. I don't know if I've done Target or not. I mean, I'm not actively trading at the moment, but I can show you how to draw some lines. Actually, I already put lines on Target. At any rate, that's okay. We're going to look at it anyway. So let's imagine these aren't here, except I'm going to leave those purple gap fill levels. So you can see in the description what I use certain color of lines for, but typically I'm going to start the weekly, and I want to see levels of significant support and resistance across multiple time frames and where those are being respected. That's the current price. Current price 136. What is this? Oh, that's where we closed. Did we? Oh, we moved up. Sorry. I clearly need more coffee this morning. So what am I looking for? I look across a larger time frame on the weekly because you'll notice historically there's levels of support and resistance that carry over. So typically a resistance level will end up acting as a support longer term, and you'll notice things like this. So like right here, I'm gonna mark this as a solid, but it's on a weekly and there's multiple tabs. But notice here, it's a resistance here when it got broke through as support, or broke through as resistance. It had strong buying momentum to push it up. We carried on. You can see it served as support here again, and then here it's trying to serve as support again. So if you look at the daily, you can kind of see the same thing going on, right? So jumping back to the weekly, I would do that to mark the key significant levels I can see across the board. And the more you do this, the more stuff starts to stand out. I'm also more conservative with when I do it. So instead of doing the absolute peak tip top, I'm going to draw my lines where they cross over the most points possible to kind of be conservative with it, to see, you know, rejection there, rejection there, rejection there, rejection there, rejection there on the weeklies. So that's clearly a significant level. And there's no perfect way to go about this. It's going to be a little bit different for how everybody prefers to trade and how they prefer to do it. But I found that this approach is overall pretty simple, and it's extremely effective, because what you're seeing here is that those support and resistance levels are typically your supply and demand zones if you're into price action trading and that kind of thing. So I mark it on the daily and weekly like that because, for one, that gives me my key levels on a larger term. time frame for swing trading, but also let's say if I was looking at something on short term for target, those key long-term historical levels matter, because if I was trading, not that I am in this setup at all, but if I was trading calls off this range, I would want to probably take profit at a resistance level, right? So historical resistance level. Or if I was trading puts, I would want to take profit on that at a strong support level that is just below. So that's where you can identify things. A good example as well, even though this chart's going to look really messy when I show it to you, is AMD. So while there was a bear flag pattern that had developed here, the measured move for that bear flag pattern would have been 18%. This right here is 10%. Why did I do 10%? Because with the breakdown of that pattern, instead of me putting the full 18% measured move, I wanted to be more conservative about it. So therefore, I put my target for that measured move at this next key support level, which is good because you can notice that that's exactly where this moved to. Now, it may break that support and move lower, but if I was trading puts, which I'm not on this because people can kind of attest, AMD I've been waiting patiently, but I would be locking gains as I was tagging support levels on puts. Same thing with calls. If I was trading to the upside on something, I'm taking profit along the way as I'm tagging resistance levels. So hopefully that's helpful. GFS is what she asked for. Let me see. That was you. Boundaries? Yep. Have not traded this stock. But yeah, I can do it for you. So it looks like it's got a good support level here, but I would be cautious on something like this because what can actually happen is what we've seen on several other stocks lately, where if it does break this range, because technically that's a bear flag there and you don't have a confirmed reversal yet, it could drop and you don't know where the heck it's going to potentially drop to. So you can mark both of those levels if you wanted. Right here, I'm marking that because yes, that was support, but also you can see that became resistance over here. And I know that probably confused watching, like, why is he clicking right there and why did he pick that candle? The more you do this, the more it starts to stand out and you kind of notice it just across whenever you're doing it. So keep practicing as you're going through it and you will start to notice the stuff more and more. So that's probably some levels I'd be watching on it, even though this is a wick. We go there. So what I would be watching for this, if I was trading it, would be a breakout of this longer term downtrend. So you've got, there's one trend, which if it's that long term on a weekly, I'm putting it like that. Here, let me just make it array. Look for a breakout of that, as well as maybe a breakout of this current downtrend that's got going on, because it'll be more clear on the daily. Yeah. See why you mentioned that one now. So if that one can get a breakout with strong buying volume, that actually might be a good breakout setup there. I don't know a whole lot about this stock, but I'll put it on my list to keep watching just out of curiosity, because that does look like if it can break out of that falling wedge pattern there, which is also kind of a downtrend. At any rate, if it can come out with a good strong buying volume, that might help. I don't know a lot about what they do as a company. I would want to look into that more to know what's going to influence it. But yeah, there's that. Let's see. Other tickers we need to cover. We touched on most of these. Tesla, y'all be careful. Y'all, like, I know that, I think it was Lisbeth was asking yesterday because everybody was like, oh, Tesla's pumping. It's a trap. The flood of calls that were sold into that run yesterday afternoon by the larger funds and whales was very obvious over on Unusual Whales. So you see them sell those calls into those big pumps, and then they'll probably buy to close on the pullback this morning, or they'll just let them keep running to expire worthless. So watching that. See, got to wrap up here in just a second, but trying to glance through a few more charts. Uber, just because Tony stayed in some calls through earnings, being the crazy dude he is. So Uber, you can see pre-market, it's trying to hold this range. And honestly, Uber, if it can hold that range, they had lacking revenues. My understanding, I haven't looked at their earnings yet. No, that's not that bad. I don't know who saw the miss on earnings, but I'd have to go look at the earnings report and stuff. I haven't had time to this morning yet. But Uber, if it can hold this range from this breakout level and it can rebounce again at this trend, that might be a good fresh entry for some longer term calls on Uber. Like those April ones we were in, might be a good re-entry on that. They already did, I think, 30 something% gain, so I locked most of my profit on it and covered my cost basis plus net profit, but could be a good opportunity to add to that. Now, if we lose the overall support levels, especially that 63.72, and don't bounce at that trend, that's a no-go for me until we get some kind of confirmation of a reversal. But as long as it can hold above 57.48 here, we might be okay for a fresh new trade on it. So I'll be watching it to see what happens. Let's see. Microsoft is so concerning, y'all. Look at this. So like this major long-term consolidation it's got going on the weekly, and then it's over here treading and playing with fire at this point of whether or not it's going to play out this head and shoulders pattern or if it can hold this demand zone and bounce. So Microsoft needs to catch some positive news because it's already testing at 410. If this thing cracks 404 as well as that trend and it has strong selling volume, look out for a move strongly to the downside to one of these support levels. If it breaks the neckline, it's going to keep diving. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on that red trend line there. Let's see. I think I touched on most of the others. MU. Yeah, I'll do MU real quick and then we'll wrap it up. Actually, I lied. I gotta cover HIMS, BTTs, and Walmart for Stevie. Hold on. I got 5 minutes of my meeting. We'll be good. So yeah, MU's in the same bear flag right now. Like that is very much a bear flag, and semiconductors are not looking great. So I would be very cautious on MU. HIMS. So HIMS, I started marking. I'm kind of having some FOMO at this point on HIMS because I was going to add the long-term calls on HIMS with the previous breakout setup, and I didn't, and then it did this crap, right? So watching HIMS, I'll go mark some fresh levels on it, but as of right now, that thing is a strong bullish breakout with strong buying volume, so I won't chase calls on this setup here just because the IV and the premiums are going to be nuts, plus that thing's already moving. So I might watch and wait. If I see a back test of this support followed by a bounce, then that might be a good entry opportunity for me. BTBT, it's going to be tied at the hip with crypto, right? So BTBT still holding the same support range. If crypto gets a good breakout, then BTBT will get a strong upside move to come off that. And Stevie, I'll drop all these charts here in a bit. Walmart, Tony's loving Walmart. This thing's breaking out of this bull flag yet again. So that's looking good. Good looking for... The more people freak out and panic and the potential economy starts crapping, the more Walmart and other things like tobacco and alcohol are going to rip. So just fair warning. But Walmart's maintaining this bullish momentum, strong push. See what happens as it goes up. Let's see. Yeah, 12. It looks like you're looking the same things I am on AMD, dude. So it sounds good. Bitcoin. Let me do Bitcoin real quick, and then Chapito Analyzer, remind me, and I'll pull the charts on the rest of the stuff for you in a bit. I gotta jump on this meeting here in a second. So yeah, Bitcoin, like I'm just really not stressed about Bitcoin right now. I know a lot of people are, but y'all know me. I don't get stressed about Bitcoin. So we're watching the bullish pennant bull flag and the head and shoulders right there, and the head and shoulders played out for leverage futures. But on the daily, we're still holding this bull flag set up here. We're still holding the back test bounce of that trend line. So ultimately for me right now, like Bitcoin still looks solid. Like look at that, still beautiful. as compared to a lot of the crap you're seeing on big tech and semis and all that, like Bitcoin's still looking fantastic at this point. And even on the 1 hour, that looks like it's getting ready to prime for another breakout. So, yeah, that's what I was talking about last week, where crypto is going to bounce back a lot quicker than a lot of the tech stocks do. But I have got to jump over to this meeting now. If there's any other tickers y'all want me to do, let me know. I'll try to I'll pull the charts for you, or I'll try to do another session here later on today. But wrapping it up, thanks y'all for joining in. Please do go ahead and like and subscribe if you don't mind. And everyone have a great and blessed day.